Hey guys, welcome back to Based MMA. It is finally time for my breakdown and prediction of Leon Edwards versus Balal Muhammad to the rematch. These guys have already fought once. That first fight was short notice for Balal Muhammad. Leon Edwards was supposed to face Hamza Chimaev in that fight. If you guys don't remember, Hamza Chimaev had to pull out of that fight due to COVID. So the fight, Balal Muhammad had to step in on short notice to face Leon Edwards. And we're going to talk about the first fight, right? Because a lot of people bring up the first fight as if Leon Edwards was dominating Balal Muhammad. And I don't necessarily agree with that. Look, I think Leon Edwards was doing very, very well in that fight. However, I feel like saying that Leon was dominating Balal Muhammad is a little bit inaccurate. I actually thought Balal Muhammad had moments in that first round. And the thing about that first fight, and the reason why I'm talking about the first fight, because I feel like maybe some people are not going to be talking about their first encounter just because it was short notice for Balal Muhammad. Balal Muhammad has improved so much from that first encounter. Leon Edwards has also improved, just not as much as Balal Muhammad in my opinion. But Leon is already a very, very good fighter. But the reason why that first fight is very important in my opinion is because we saw how their styles really clash up, and we saw a side of Leon that we typically don't see before this fight against Belal and after his fights against Balal Muhammad. Like, we really haven't seen Leon be as aggressive against anybody as he was against Balal Muhammad in their first encounter. He wasn't even that aggressive against a Colby Covington who had talked a lot of shit about his dad. And after that, look, I understand that the fight against Colby Covington, he gave him a lot of respect because Colby has crazy cardio. He has a crazy gritty grappling style. You know, he has the heart of a lion. As much as people don't like Colby, I don't really like Colby all that much either right now. Colby is a great fighter, and I felt like Leon really respected him as a fighter. But one of my biggest frustrations with Leon Edwards in that fight is that after that second round, where he saw that Colby Covington wasn't really doing that much, where he couldn't close the distance, where he wasn't really going for takedowns, I felt like it was for Leon. Leon had the opportunity to really step on the gas and to try to finish and knock out Colby Covington. Because what I don't like from Leon is that he gets very complacent in his fights. Yes, of course you want to retain the title. Of course you want to win the fight and not really, be risk adverse. But something that's very important as a champion is not only just defending your title, in my opinion, at least as a fan. The other important thing is to have incredible performances, to have performances that really showcase who you are as a champion. And I mean, you guys can say whatever and defend that performance that he had against Colby Covington, but the reality is that wasn't the best version of Colby Covington. That was a Colby Covington who hadn't fought in almost 2 years, was coming off win over Jorge Masvidal, a Colby Covington who's not that passionate for the game, who's not that hungry for the game, that was gifted a title shot just because of his name. And Leon, even with all that trash talk that Colby brought into the press conference, he wasn't able to go out there and really hurt and finish Colby Covington. Of course, he outclassed him. He dominated him for 5 rounds. I mean, I want to say 4 rounds because in that 5th round, Colby Covington was able to get that takedown. But besides that, Leon Edwards just didn't look all that impressive against Colby Covington. We already knew he was very slick on the feet. We knew he was the better striker. And that's just one of my biggest criticisms of Leon Edwards, that I just feel like he lacks a little bit of grit. But in that first fight, he was very aggressive. He was pressuring Balal Muhammad up against the fence, landing 1-2s, fighting from the southpaw stance, having very good footwork. And his striking looked incredibly clean, and he was actually imposing damage on Balal Muhammad, landing the body kicks, landing the straight left hand, landing the right hook. He was having so much success on the feet where Balal Muhammad, you could tell he just did not know how to deal with it. And even in that first round of their first fight, Leon Edwards landed a pretty good head kick that stunned Balal Muhammad. And even though Balal Muhammad was able to eat it, I mean, Leon Edwards did land a lot of shots afterwards. And even one of the mistakes he made in that first round of that first fight was that after Leon threw that head kick and kind of stunned Balal Muhammad, and Balal Muhammad was trying to recover, trying to move away from Leon Edwards as Leon Edwards was pressuring, trying to land that onslaught of punches. And Balal did a very good job of covering and blocking those punches. Leon kind of shoots for a takedown, which was kind of bizarre. Like, I was like, okay, that was kind of a low fight IQ moment. But even then, up against the fence, when Leon tried to take down Balal Muhammad was able to reverse the position and even landed a pretty good elbow in close range. And also Balal Muhammad, there was a part where Balal Muhammad, fainted with that he was going to go for a takedown. And instead of going for the takedown, committing with that takedown, he came over the top with a left hook that landed on Leon Edwards. So even though Leon obviously was winning the fight, it was only one round. I didn't think Balal Muhammad looked as bad as people make him out to seem. Like, I felt like he was still very much in the fight. Obviously, in the second round, he got eye poked, which was, very unfortunate because I thought the fight was actually pretty entertaining. And I felt like we were seeing a side of Leon Edwards that we're typically not used to see, right? And a very aggressive, very confident Leon Edwards. We saw him a little bit more hesitant. Against Kamaru Usman, even against Nate Diaz, I felt like he got a little bit complacent. But against Balal Muhammad, you could tell he was just a lot more aggressive. And I don't understand if that's just because Leon Edwards has something against Balal Muhammad personally. Maybe something about Balal Muhammad just really annoys him even more than Colby Covington, which is very, very bizarre. So the reason why I bring that up is just because I think Leon Edwards going into this fight, I don't think he's going to respect Balal Muhammad on the feet. I don't really think he's going to respect his grappling. I don't really think he respects anything that Balal Muhammad brings into the cage. Now, this Balal Muhammad that's coming into this fight is in a little bit of a bizarre situation. I know he's on a very good win streak. He's in a long, I want to say 10-fight win streak right now. But Balal Muhammad hasn't fought in over a year. His last fight was against Gilbert Burns, which was on short notice. It was a very strange fight, right? We didn't see the best version of Gilbert Burns, but for Balal Muhammad to also step in on short notice, right? He didn't have a training camp. He was coming from Ramadan. To be able to go in against a Gilbert Burns who was coming off a win over Jorge Masvidal and to dominate him for 5 rounds, I mean, it was pretty impressive, even though we know that it wasn't the best version, or I guess Gilbert Burns going in with the best conditioning going into that fight. But I mean, you still have to count that as a win because I mean, Balal Muhammad was also stepping in on short notice. Before that, he knocked out Sean Brady, who hadn't lost in the UFC. That was very impressive, to TKO Sean Brady. And I think that Balal Muhammad is an underrated fighter. I think he's improved a lot as a fighter. I think he's a good mixed martial artist. I think the fact that he's training with Islam Makhachev, the Dagestani brothers, and all that shit, I feel like that's really going to help Balal's mentality going into this fight. But when I look at this fight in a technical level, I just think that Leon is just a superior striker. And I've seen that in Balal Muhammad's fights. He likes to, kind of kickbox at range, which is exactly what Leon does, but better, which is why I'm kind of having a hard time, seeing Balal Muhammad winning this fight. I think that if Balal wins this fight, it's going to be with his pressure. It's going to be with his cardio. It's going to be kind of making it a dirty fight. But when I visualize and I think about how this fight can play out, I just kind of see this fight playing out similarly to the way Leon versus Kamaru Usman 3 kind of played out, where Kamaru Usman, was kind of having a hard time closing the distance against Leon Edwards. When he would shoot for a takedown, when he would level change, Leon would do a very good job of reversing the position and defending the takedowns. Leon is very good in the clinch. He throws pretty good elbows, really good knees. So he's very dangerous with the body kicks, dangerous with the head kicks, has a solid left hand, has a very good jab, very good footwork. And I just think that even though Balal Muhammad has improved a lot, he's definitely a lot stronger. He looks very shredded going into this fight. And I like his mentality. I like that he fights as a more confident fighter. I like that he's shit-talking Leon Edwards. And I feel like Balal has a chip on his shoulder. However, like I said, he hasn't fought in over a year. He's a little bit older now. I want to say he's 36, 37 years old. So he's not a young guy. His last win wasn't even on a full training camp, and before that, he had beat Sean Brady. He had beat Vicente Luque in the rematch. He dominated Stephen Thompson, so he has a very good names on his resume. I just feel like right now Leon is in his prime. I feel like he's going into this fight with so much confidence, coming off that win over Colby Covington, which is fairly an easy fight. That third fight against Kamaru Usman, obviously he was able to knock out Kamaru Usman in the rematch, even though he was losing that fight. So I feel like right now Leon is just in his prime. I mean, he's improved his takedown defense. He's very good on the ground. And the problem is that even if Balal Muhammad is able to take this fight to the ground, I just don't see him able to find a submission. And I just think that based on the scoring, based on MMA scoring, based on the UFC scoring, where they prioritize damage, I just see Leon Edwards landing the more significant blows. Even if Balal is able to get Leon down to the mat, I just see them giving the rounds to Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is also very good at getting back up to his feet. Like, he's coming off wins over Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, who kind of have a similar style to Balal Muhammad. So I think that's really going to help Leon Edwards going into this fight. And I feel like Balal Muhammad lately, he's been relying a little bit more on his striking, which is not really ideal going into a fight against Leon Edwards, who's definitely the cleaner striker, who has more tools in his arsenal. And even though Leon is not necessarily like the most dangerous fighter, like he doesn't have like insane power. Obviously, the head kick that he landed on Kamaru Usman was very, very powerful. I mean, he's not knocking out guys left and right. I mean, people make fun of Balal Muhammad for being this decision artist, but I mean, Leon Edwards is also a decision artist. So I mean, the reality is I see this fight going to a decision. I think Balal Muhammad is going to need to take a lot of risks to really beat Leon Edwards. I think he's going to have to mix in the grappling and also, try to have success on the feet. I think that he's going to have to close in the range. But we saw in that first fight, every time that Balal Muhammad would try to close the distance, Leon Edwards would land a left hand or a good 1-2 on Balal Muhammad. And even though Balal Muhammad has improved a lot, I just don't think his striking has improved significantly to really compete with Leon Edwards on the feet. I think he has to kind of make it a dirty fight, really, kind of threaten Leon Edwards with the takedowns, feign low and then come over the top with a left hook and kind of mix it up and really push the pace against Leon Edwards, who I feel tends to get a little bit complacent in his fight. So I think the approach for Balal Muhammad is to rely on his cardio, to rely on his pressure, and to try to outstrike Leon Edwards, which is easier said than done because Leon has very good footwork. He's very defensively sound. He doesn't overcommit in punches. Everything is like very technical, very clean. Like I said, he doesn't overextend in punches, which just makes it very difficult for someone to Balal Muhammad to really have success against Leon Edwards. And Leon is also the bigger guy going into this fight. I mean, right now it says that Leon is 6 feet and that Balal Muhammad is 5'11". I felt like when I saw that first fight, I mean, I feel like Leon is a lot taller than just 1 inch over Balal Muhammad. I want to say he's like at least 2 inches taller than him. So I don't really trust this stat right here, but I just think that as much as I would want to see Balal Muhammad win this fight, I just look at the circumstances, I look at his style, and I just don't think he has the style to beat Leon. I think somebody that's going to be able to beat Leon is somebody like Shavkat Rakhmonov, who has, a great chin, who has power, who has a submission ability. Like, when has Balal Muhammad really been able to submit anybody? Like, even if he takes Leon Edwards to the ground, I just don't see him being able to do enough to really win the rounds. Like, I think Leon's going to be winning on the feet. And even if Balal, clinches up against the fence, like, it's still not going to be a good look to the judges. And they'll still give the round to Leon Edwards. So, I think some people are going to maybe pick Leon Edwards to knock out Balal Muhammad. And that's entirely possible, especially if he's a lot more aggressive and he fights with grit against Balal Muhammad. But I think the safe outcome for this fight is for Leon Edwards to just outstrike and just outclass Balal Muhammad for 5 rounds. I think that's what I see happening here. I think that it's going to be a very clear win for Leon Edwards. I think that, Balal Muhammad is going to be competitive just because he's a very good fighter. I think he has a chip on his shoulder. He's coming into this fight with great mentality, training with Islam Makhachev, training with Khabib Nurmagomedov. Those guys know what they're doing. And maybe they have a great game plan against Leon Edwards. But when I think of this matchup, I just think Leon right now is at the prime of his career. He has all the confidence in the world. His last fight was relatively easy. He didn't take any damage against Colby Covington. His hardest style was probably Kamaru Usman, who, has a solid jab, has a good right hand, who has a lot of power. I don't see Balal Muhammad knocking out Leon Edwards with one punch. Maybe up against the fence if maybe Leon gasses out, but I just don't think so. And that's a problem, that Balal just doesn't have a lot of finishing ability. I just don't see him having a lot of finishing ability. And even though Leon is also another guy that doesn't have like crazy finishing ability, he's the cleaner striker. He's fought the better guys, in my opinion. Maybe Balal Muhammad, hasn't been given the opportunity. And that fight against Gilbert Burns was a very bizarre fight. But I still believe that Balal Muhammad deserves credit for that fight because it was also short notice for him. I just think Leon right now, he's way too good. His striking is very clean. As much as I make fun of him because I think he's kind of a boring fighter, I think he's kind of boring on the mic, he's a very clean, technical striker. And I feel like Balal is also kind of a technical striker with volume, with good cardio. And I just don't think that's a good style against Leon Edwards. I think whoever beats Leon Edwards is going to have to be a fighter who has the power threat, who has a submission threat, who also has a great chin and is not afraid to walk forward. And as we saw in that first fight, even though it was short notice, Leon was able to time Balal Muhammad on the feet and really get his rhythm. And that's why he was a lot more aggressive than we tend to see Leon fight at. So I think that's something very important, guys. So I as much as I would want to see Balal Muhammad win this fight, and he definitely has a path here. I think that if he mixes it up with the takedowns, if he walks Leon forward, if he takes the punishment and just kind of make it a dirty fight and really drown Leon Edwards, I think Balal Muhammad could win a decision. But when I think of the fighter who has more paths to win, I think Leon definitely has a chance here to knock out a Balal Muhammad who hasn't fought in over a year, who's getting a lot older. I feel like this whole thing of like Balal Muhammad waiting for his title shot because Colby Covington and Leon was made for December of 2023, and then now this fight is taking place in July, so he hasn't fought in over a year. I don't think this is good for Balal. I don't really think this is good because he's a lot older now. He's a lot older, and even though he looks very shredded, and I don't want to make any accusations, but he definitely looks like he's on the sauce. I just don't see him having enough power to beat Leon, man. I just think Leon is really clean right now. And like I said, he definitely has something against Balal Muhammad because in that first fight, he was so aggressive. He was on the front foot. He did not respect Balal Muhammad. And I just don't see why Leon would all of a sudden respect Balal Muhammad going into this rematch. I just don't see that happening. And you could just tell that Leon is just a superior striker. And even though Balal Muhammad has improved, he's improved in his striking, I just don't think he's improved enough to beat Leon Edwards right now. So I'm going to go with Leon Edwards to win by, I want to say a TKO. I really do want to say a TKO. But I feel like, just based on Leon's resume and the amounts of TKOs and knockouts that he has, which is not many, I have to go with Leon Edwards to win by a decision. I think it's going to be a close decision. I think the rounds are going to be very competitive, but I think it's going to be like a 3-2 Leon Edwards. I think he's going to be landing the better shots on the feet. I could even see him having a moment in those early rounds where maybe he stuns Balal Muhammad, but Balal Muhammad is able to survive. And maybe Balal starts to like pick it up in those later rounds and really kind of like put that pace on Leon Edwards as he tends to slow down in those later rounds. So I'm going to go with Leon Edwards to win by a decision. I want to know your guys' thoughts on this fight. Do you think Balal Muhammad is going to be able to win this fight? It'd be crazy to see Balal maybe like finish Leon. That would be totally insane. And it's totally possible because, it's MMA. Anything could really happen. And Balal is also a very good fighter with good striking, good grappling, very strong, very physical, good pressure, good cardio. So Balal is a very well-rounded fighter, but when I think of the striking, when I think of where Leon is at in his career, I just have to go with him to win by a decision, guys. So please make sure to like and subscribe. Let me know who you guys think is going to win this main event. I have to go with Leon Edwards. As much as I love to pick underdogs, I just don't see Balal Muhammad winning this fight.